Oh, I'm just for a wee thing up saying that my internet's a bit dodgy. So
did I.
Oh, right. So we have had the pleasure of being at Corney and Barrow already, and both times that I've been at a wine tasting, I've been driving. So I am really looking forward to this one. And I think, although I don't see any of them on yet, but we have another drinks company that were joining us, and I actually did a gin tasting there, and I think I was driving then as well. So this is very unusual for me. So I'm not going to say very much at all, apart from I have one ask. If the chamber was to have a bar, what do you think we should call it? So have a wee think about it, and once we've heard from all our presenters this evening, we can do a wee kind of round robin and who you are, what you do, and obviously then get your pub, because we'll come to things like this to network, and a bit like the golf course, a lot of businesses run at the bar after the actual conference or event or whatever is going on. So I would just like to say one special welcome to Alison Henderson, who's the Chief Exec of Dundee and Angus Chamber. So I thought it'd be nice to have Alison along to join us at an Ayrshire event. We do a lot of work together, so this is something a wee bit different, a bit social for us than she might. I'm sure she's got a drinks company, but if not, Corney and Barrow, I'm quite sure we'll do it remotely, Alison. They'd need to put a charge on, I think, for delivering the wine, mind you, but I'm sure you'll enjoy it. So thanks for joining us. So Yvonne, I'll hand over to you, and you're going to tell us what we're going to be doing this evening.
Yeah. Hi everyone, nice to see you join this evening for our first ever virtual drinks party. Seems a long time ago we started discussions on how we could deliver this, but thanks to Janet from Class Cocktails, Barry from Corney and Barrow, and Brendan and Andy from Na Braithrean Whisky Company. So really pleased that we've managed to get it to this stage. And the way we're going to run it tonight is Janet's going to kick off with Class Cocktails, and then we'll hand over to Barry from Corney and Barrow, and we'll finish with Whisky. I think that's the kind of normal menu of drinks that we would have on a proper night out. Well, I would. So, well, there's Helena coming in, so that's good. So one thing I would say is if you prefer to see a full screen of the speaker, if you go to the top right of your photo, of your picture, you can click the 3 buttons and you can select just speaker view at the top right of the screen, if you prefer to see the big view of our presenter tonight. Hi, Helena. So, without any further ado, I'm delighted to welcome Janet from our kitchen, and who will take us through, I believe, two gin cocktails this evening. Thanks, Janet.
Hi, welcome to the party. Just as a quick intro, my name's Janet Martin. I was a cultural coordinator, and I was made redundant in the recession 10 years ago, and left with rumours that I'd left the council and turned to drink. Because I did my personal license training and started a home or private cocktail service. Over the years, that kind of developed into making my own liqueurs, which I actually wound up because I think getting up early on a Sunday morning to do all the farmers markets was killing me, especially if I'd done a cocktail party on Saturday night. And 2 years ago, I started doing tasting history tours in Ayrshire. Tasting History Ayrshire Tours is that.co, and I include interesting history in Ayrshire, tease out historical characters, and include quality food and drink. So look out for some of those. The Maritime History Tour was running up until the start of the pandemic, and the Millers and Merchants Tour looking at textile history. So I'm going to do 2 cocktails tonight. They're both gin based, and I'm using good old Gordon's. Nothing wrong with Gordon's. There are 101 different gins out now. A lot of them are delicious, but if you're making cocktails, I think you should just stick to your plain dry gin, unless of course the cocktail has been designed by the gin maker themselves, and it enhances the qualities of the gin or the flavours of the botanicals in the gin. So I'm just going to use Gordon's, but any any dry gin that doesn't have like an overlying strong taste is great. And I'm using lychee juice because it's a little bit different. It's quite cooling, and I was thinking of summer drinks and barbecues, and we've had some fantastic weather, and I'm holding out for us that we're going to have some more again. So I'm using lychee juice, and I think lychee juice has what I call like a waxy feel to your mouth. It's like a very smooth, waxy feel. I'm also using Saint-Germain, said in my best French accent, which is an elderflower liqueur. Now, you don't have to use Saint-Germain. There are lots of others on the market. This one's by Chase, William Chase, famous Scottish vodka maker. I make my own, I've some over here, but mine comes out really, really dark. It's actually like a really smooth, sort of like sherry background. So I don't use mine because of the colour. I leave the blooms in for a long time. So I think it must be starches, whatever it is in the blooms, actually turn it that sort of like dark golden colour. But for the cocktail, I'm going to use the Saint-Germain. So I'm going to make the first one. Now I would serve this in a long glass. So I've got here it's called a slim hurricane glass or a tall Collins glass. It's a long, refreshing drink, so I would just use a tall glass. I'm going to use this one. And what I'm going to do is tilt the camera forward so you can see what I'm doing. You'll be able to hear me, hopefully, and see the work surface. So, in a beaker, I'm going to put 1 measure of dry gin. Now, I'm using 25ml measures, and depending on how hardcore a drinker you are, you might want to use 35ml. 25ml of gin, and then I'm going to put the same again of the Saint-Germain. So it goes in there, and then I'm going to add some lychee juice. Now this is actually from Asda. It's not kept in the fridge, so you can just pick it up from the shelf. And if you wanted to get it, I'll look up the name and I'll show you by the end because it's back in the fridge. But this is the lychee juice. I transfer mine into a pourer because I can get more height when I pour, and it just aerates the juice a little bit more. But it just really looks a bit posh, and it looks better than having cartons on the surface. So I'm putting in 3 of the lychee juice. So far we've got 1 of gin, 1 Saint-Germain, and 3 lychee. And then I'm going to take a lime and cut some segments. Now, most cocktails have a sweet and sour element. So the sweetness of the liqueur and the lychee juice will be contrasted with the lime. So I've cut, whoops, and I've thrown one bit away. I've cut 2 segments of lime, and I'm just going to squeeze them directly into the beaker. Can you see okay? A few nods. So I've got 2 squeezes of lime going in there. Then I'm going to add the ice. I've got a cool box at my feet. That's a good helping of ice, and I'm going to give that a shake. So that you can see me. And then before I put it into the Collins glass, I'm going to stack some ice cubes in the bottom. So I've got some nice cubes that I made earlier. I have different ice for shaking and for serving, depending on how much time I've got. I've stacked 3 up there. Pour in the cocktail. And then I'm going to top with a rosé wine, probably you don't need to even really look at this, Corney and Barrow. This is it's the Echo Fall, so it's a sweet, cheap raspberry wine, and this has actually got pear in it as well. I like to use just raspberry, but do you know, pear and lychee go really well together. Pear, raspberry and lychee are all really complementary. So I'm going to top up the cocktail with the raspberry wine.
There are other brands available, of course.
Yes, there are. Now you can stir it, but I quite like to have a graded drink, because I don't know if you can see that. It's pink at the top. Can you see? It's pink at the top, and then it sort of goes to milky white at the bottom. For a garnish, I'm going to put a stick of fresh raspberries in that. You can get the tinned lychees, but to be honest, whenever I've done that, I don't use the whole tin. I think it's a waste. So I'm going to pop some, whoops, chuck one away again. Pop some raspberries in the top there and serve with a straw. So that's the first one. So I call that a lychee cooler. Now, when I do menus for people's parties, I actually change the names of the drink. Sometimes if there's a significant event or something that's happened, if it's a special birthday, I'll change the name of the drink to suit the occasion, which is confusing if I have anyone working with me, because I have to explain that the drink that they're making might have a different name. I got this idea actually. I was on holiday a good few years ago in Australia, and I had my first cocktail with lychee juice. So, and then I was looking at using fruity wines. So that's the lychee cooler. The second one I'm going to do is, how are we for time? Okay.
Yeah, we're good. We're fine.
And the second one I'm going to do is called the Pendrick Sour. Now this was devised by a guy called Stuart, who was working with Sterling Gin for a while. I'm not quite sure whether he still is or not, but he was doing the mixologist working with Sterling Gin. Fine gin. If you haven't tried Sterling Gin, it's very nice. I like it. I like a nice dry gin, and I don't like a gin that's been played around with too much. You know, if I'm going to have a gin, so it's a fine gin. I have had a couple of bottles. Unfortunately, I don't have any at the moment, so that's how much I like it. And I'm using the Gordon's gin, and to me, it is an equivalent taste. So I've got a clean mixer here. I'm going to use 2 measures of gin. Now this is a hardcore drink. I would call this a sophisticated sipping cocktail, whereas the other one is more like a long, refreshing cocktail. So I've got 2 measures of gin, and I've got a lemon, which I've been rolling around the counter so it's nice and squishy. It makes it easier to get the juice out, extract the juice. And I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm actually going to put half of the lemon juice straight in on top of the gin, like a gin gimlet. Roughly, if you're interested, the juice from half a lemon is generally 25 mils, so it's like the equivalent measure to one 25 ml measure. And then I'm going to put a couple of basil leaves in there. Now you can muddle them, but the basil leaves are so soft that when you shake them with the ice bruises them. So you can muddle the leaves in the drink if you want, but you do tend to get more green bits, which is okay unless you're talking to someone in the party, and when you're talking you realise they've got green bits stuck between their teeth. So it depends what you want to do, whether you want to have laughing gas or not. And then I'm going to use pineapple juice, and I'm going to use 3 measures of this. Now, because I've used the juice of half of the lemon, that is actually quite sour now. And I'm just going to sweeten it with a drop of sugar syrup. You can use bar syrup. This is the Monin syrup, and you can make your own. It's just water and sugar, heated gently on the stove. Don't go away and forget it, otherwise you make like a toffee stuff, which I have done. And I'm just putting a little drop of that in with that to take the bitterness away from the lemon. And then I'm going to serve it into a martini glass. It's less liquid. As I said, it's a bit hardcore because it is mostly gin with lemon juice, so it's to be sipped carefully. I would normally serve it in a glass like this for a woman, or a small crystal tumbler if it's a guy, just because I think they are more comfortable holding that. I'm going to use my lovely crystal martini glass. You've got pineapple, basil, gin, and lemon. And then on the top of that, I'm just going to float one little basil leaf. I'm going to turn it upside down like a little boat. Float that on the top. And you can add a straw. So that's the Pendrick Sour and the Lychee Cooler. Two very, very different gin cocktails. And both delicious. That's me. If anyone's interested and they want the recipes, or they can't remember them, just send me an email or message me on Class Cocktails Facebook, or on the website, and I can send them out to you.
Excellent, Janet.
We think we're more interested in your address in case any of us live close by, Janet. We'll over.
That's superb. Well done.
Really good. Delicious.
Look delicious.
They are delicious. I'm going to drink them now. Wow.
I've actually got a small gin with tonic and some basil and raspberry. I just put everything in that you mentioned. But it's very pleasant.
I do a whole series of cocktails using herbs and either blossom or fruit. So
yeah,
I love playing with flavours. I love combining flavours.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a passion.
Yeah, well, one that you're very good at. So thanks, Janet. That was excellent. Thank you. Relax now and enjoy that drink. Great, Barry.
Yeah.
You're on. We're on to wine now. Are you ready?
I'm just going to change the screen back because I don't want to close up with myself the whole time.
I've got you on big screen. It looks great.
Perfect. So, yeah, welcome everybody to our cellars in Ayr. For anyone who doesn't know exactly where we are, it's Academy Street in Ayr, which is between the Town Hall and the old Ayr Academy, hence the name of the street. And the full lane here, it's a little cobbled lane, one of the oldest streets in Ayr. The whole length of the street has underground cellars, all of which belong to us. And so where we are now is the biggest part of the cellar, which runs about 40 metres. So we've got 3 different tunnels. So behind these doors, if I open them, you can't actually see because of the light. And then I've got 2 other cellars here as well. So I'm just going to show you this through here. So through these gates here is the sort of entrance to one of the cellars. And we've a house in here. I mean, it's got the capacity to hold about 14,000 cases roughly. But at the moment, we're probably about half full for various reasons. But it's still an estimated value of around £10 million worth. They're quite exceptional wines that we've got in here. Some of the finest wines from around the world. The cellars themselves were built in 1766, so we're 254 years old in Ayr. That's how long this place has been going, and it has always been a wine cellar. It was a wine shipping business that started here. It was started by a chap called Alexander Oliphant and 7 others. 4 of them were from the Isle of Man, and I'll come back to that, and 4 of them were already established Ayrshire merchants who wanted to import wine from the continent. There was obviously a demand for it back then. The area, the whole west coast of Scotland, there was a great deal of wealth given, you know, the tobacco industry in Glasgow was the biggest tobacco port in the world at the time. And so, yeah, there was demand for fine wines, and so these guys decided to do that. They did do it via the Isle of Man at one point, up until about 1765, and up until then, the taxes were much lower on the Isle of Man for imported goods such as wine that were taxable in the UK. But that changed in 1775 when the UK government took over the customs rights over there. And so there was no point in going via the Isle of Man any longer. And so they came direct to Ayr, and so the cellars were built. So yeah, 3 different tunnels. They are barrel vaulted ceilings. I know you can't see it here, and hopefully at one point you can all come and visit. As soon as we get the chance, we can all come down here. We can do a big tour and tasting. It's fantastic. The other direction in Academy Street, the other direction, some of you might know the Smoking Goat, the little bar at the end of the lane. Once upon a time, that was actually a bank vault. So as the company started here, they realised that they needed a great deal of money to build the cellars, to build the ships which sail, to crew the ships, and so on. They went to the bank, asked for money, and the bank said, no chance. Effectively, these guys, they were smugglers. There was some of it that I'm sure was done legitimately, but a lot of it would have been smuggling to avoid paying the taxes. And so the only way they could get a bit of money was to start their own bank and print their own money. And that's what they did next door, which is now the Smoking Goat. So that's the old bank vault. And between us and them, there's actually another cellar, which we don't currently use, but it's a fantastic space. So it's a great place to be. Normally we do tastings, it's all candlelit, and it's just fantastic. It's really lovely. And just recently we converted the cellar over this side to a much bigger tasting space because we've really outgrown the space that we've got. And although we don't want to become, you know, some sort of tasting experience tourist attraction, that's not what we're all about. We do want to have space to welcome as many customers as possible to come and taste. But yeah, so just to give you an idea, the wine's in here. So as I say, there's probably, I think, about 7,000 cases in here at the moment, which is not a huge amount. And they all belong to our customers. So what we do is a big part of the business is our private sales, and that's when people buy wine to lay down. So you effectively buy a wine that's very young, and it would be maybe in the barrel at the time, and it would still be in the country of origin, and you can buy it then. And the benefit of buying it then is that it's probably going to be at its cheapest. So it's a good time to buy it, as it will or may increase in value. So you will pay a premium to get a bottle of wine, which is a good vintage, off the shelf. So some people, or a lot of people, do buy wine in advance, which is pretty cool. And it's a fantastic part of the business. It's part of the business that people, maybe like yourself, that maybe see the shop front, don't really realise what we do. But it's great for me because it is good fun to sell these wines. And then you see the excitement, you know, in 5-10 years' time when people actually come to drink them. And they've got these fantastic wines, which they might have forgotten about for some time. So yeah. Does anybody have any questions? Because I'm more than happy to take any questions about the cellars. But we will go on and taste wines, but it's quite an intriguing place. There's a lot of history down here. There's no doubt once upon a time Robert Burns would have stepped foot in here, given that he was a taxman working up and down the west coast of Scotland. And actually just above us, on Fort Street, behind us, is Old Customs House. So the fact that the Customs Office was right above us, which is probably absolutely no coincidence, it was to keep an eye on what was going on here. There's no doubt that he would have been in here at some point, which is really amazing.
Harry, I heard that there was a tunnel that led from where you are at Corney and Barrow down to the harbour. Is that true?
Yeah, so at the moment, the cellars run to the end, or to the end of Academy Street, and so they run to 4th Street, basically, opposite the old school. And there's 2 little doors down there that you might notice the next time that you pass by on the right-hand side as you pass the old school. Now, there's a lot of rumours and there's a lot of chat about other tunnels that may have led off here towards the harbour. There is nothing there now. We don't have anything there now. But it's most likely, as we know, these guys were doing a bit of smuggling. So what they wouldn't have done was bring the barrels up past the customs house to get to the cellars. So they must have had some other tunnel or way to get the wine in here without it being so obvious. So yeah, not there now, unfortunately. Well, they might be behind one of these bottles. We might discover them one day, but not at the moment. But back when this place was built, it was sand. So these were dug out like trenches and then covered over. Of course, you'll get the sand gate, which runs past the town hall. So it was a sandbank. So all that would happen would be the barrels, because it would have been barrels at the time as opposed to bottles, would come off the ships and probably dragged up by horse or pony or something like that to the cellar doors where they would be rolled in. And in fact, the area just through here is the old bottling area. Brendan was lucky enough that he popped by this afternoon and he got a wee private tour. But we've got an area through there that we've recently exposed, which is the old bottling area, which is just fascinating to see how it all worked. And in fact, I could probably show you one of the last port bottles to be bottled here. I've got an assistant here, if you're just about to get one now, because I've just remembered. But right up until 1973, roughly, there was port being bottled here in Ayr. And so I can show you we've got 5 bottles left of the last ever port to be bottled here in Ayr. It's not got any labels on it. Thank you. So this here, wee dusty bottle. It's just a little bit of red wax over the top. That is this is 1970 vintage, bottled roughly 1973 in Ayr. And we've even got an old machine round here that you can use to put the corks in the bottles as well. And we've got some empty bottles that were never used, which was found just recently. So this would be absolutely fantastic. I was lucky enough to taste a bottle about 2 years ago. We discovered one of the bottles was leaking. Now, it's the only thing, you couldn't sell it, you had to drink it. So my colleague and I enjoyed it on Christmas Eve. So yeah, really fantastic stuff. Unfortunately, not for sale. It's the last few bottles, which I'm sure we'll keep for a special occasion, maybe a lock-in. The other thing that I'll point out, which is quite fascinating, is just how big our key is. So this is the original key to the door. And an interesting story is just who the key holder was back in 1766 when the place was first built and so on. The key holder was a guy called David McClure, and he was the landlord to William Burns, Rabbie's dad, and they ended up in court together. He was a landlord, and there was a bit of sort of legal issues between them. But he was the key holder, and he lived here in Academy Street. And I just think it's fascinating to think now this exact same key is the one that we use, and that was the chap that had it back then. So it's a great piece of history and some size. So finally, I think we should talk about the wines, and I really wanted just to give you a background about who we are and what we do here, because it's for me that's the most exciting part. But of course the wines are delicious as well. So the first wine that I picked to taste tonight was the Anna Sauvignon Blanc, which is from New Zealand, Marlborough, New Zealand. However, it's from a very specific part of Marlborough, which is actually the hottest part. So it's called the Awatari Valley. Now, the impact that has on the wine is that it's really bursting with fruit. So I'm not sure who out the pub just now has got it in front of them, but if you give it a smell, you should really get a burst of tropical fruit. Yeah? For me, it's mango. And now, there's one product I always think about when I taste this wine, and it's a Solero ice lolly. So if you think Solero ice lolly and just give it a wee smell, you might just see what I'm talking about there. It's lovely tropical fruit, and that's the heat that gives you that. But the other thing you'll notice is it's lovely and fresh. So when you taste the wine, it's got a real burst of acidity. But you need to remember that Marlborough in New Zealand, it's on the South Island, but it's on the north of the South Island, is right by the ocean. So you've got the heat, but you've got the sea breeze, if you like, and those two together give you the fruit and that lovely acidity, and that's key. Now the thing about the wines that we sell is, you know, we know all the people behind it. So the guy that makes this, his name is Mikel Aradis. The winery's been going since the 1980s. His father started it, and this is his Anna Sauvignon Blanc, and that's named after his daughter, Anna. And the nice thing is he comes here, so he visits us, probably not this year, but he was over last year. He comes to the cellars, does tastings for customers, and we can taste his wines with him here, which is just, you just can't beat it. Well, you could if you were in New Zealand. What does everybody think of this? Is it a thumbs up?
I like it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Brent,
really
you
like
spoke
it. It's
earlier that you
delicious.
weren't a white wine drinker. It's good then?
Delicious.
Yeah, it's not as acidic as I thought it might be. And when you said Solero, like that sort of hit home. I'm probably still a red wine man, but my opinion's changing slightly.
Good. I mean, it's really bursting with acidity, isn't it? It's really, wow. It's the first time I've tasted it actually for, well, probably a few months. But it would be perfect.
Delicious.
In the sort of weather that we had during lockdown, this would just be perfect in the garden.
Sorry, Alison. Alison's just messaged to say it's her favourite wine. So obviously in Dundee we hadn't sent her any, but she's been very good and she's not been drinking wine recently. But the next time we're meeting up, Alison, I'll go into Corney and Barrow and bring a bottle up for you.
If you've not, just for anybody that's not got the bottle, just to like see it. So, Anna Sauvignon Blanc. Fairly simple label. The interesting thing, when you look at the old world versus the new world wine bottles, so the new world such as New Zealand, Australia, South Africa and so on, the bottles are fairly simple. They tell you what it is, Anna, Sauvignon Blanc, Marlborough and so on. Whereas when you look at the old world wines such as France, Italy, Spain and so on, they don't tell you much. Let me see if I've got anything that I could show you. Yeah, I've got one here that we use as a candle holder. But if you look at this, you probably don't understand much on that label. And that's because in the old world, it's all about the place. So this is from a place called Bulgari in Tuscany, Italy. And so just looking at that, if you understand a little bit about wine, then you can probably understand a bit about this particular wine, if you know about the region and the styles that it produces. Whereas in the new world, they give you a lot more information, and normally in the back label, there's even more information. Typical, you know, Italians and the French, they don't like to give much away. They expect you to know a bit. So yeah, so I'm not sure where we are time-wise, but...
No, you're okay, Barry.
Yeah.
We're
So,
good.
It's all right. We've got a late licence tonight. You're all right. We're having a shut-in.
Hello.
We're having a lockdown.
yeah. So no, I think this is absolutely fantastic. The Sauvignon, I mean, if you compare it to other Marlborough Sauvignon Blancs, it probably is a bit more punchy. It's got a little bit more going on because of that heat and the fruit that it gives. And of course, it's a small family-owned winery. They don't produce a huge amount. So if you compare this to something like maybe Cloudy Bay Sauvignon Blanc, which you might have heard of, which is a bigger brand, or Villa Maria, which you see in most supermarkets, you know, to start supplying big supermarkets, you must produce a lot of wine. And for me, the more you produce, I just don't know if you can give it that same love and care for what these guys can do. So I think to buy wine from small boutique wineries is key. And that's something that we really pride ourselves on here, is that we know these winemakers well. We have worked with them sometimes from the day they started, we have worked with them. And those relationships are key, and that's what we're all about here. And I think you just end up with the best wine. And so you know what? Sometimes the wine tastes better if you know the story behind it. And I think that's true here. So next up, in the new world again, which is unusual because I always include some old world, but what I wanted to do is just pick a couple of crowd pleasers. I wanted everybody really to enjoy the wines. They're, you know, they're safe options, I suppose, but really tasty. So the next one, the red, is the Rookamallen Malbec. We do have one customer that calls this the optician wine because of the label art, so it always looks like the optician's asking you to read it out. So this is from Mendoza, Argentina, which is arguably the most premium region in the world at the moment for Malbec. That's the grape variety. Its homeland is in France, a place called Cahors, where it's known as the black wine. So that gives you an indication to this grape and what it can produce, which is big, bold, deep wines. However, over, I think it was 1868, roughly, the Malbec grape variety was taken to Argentina by a French winemaker. And he started to produce Malbec there, and we discovered that Malbec does very well in Argentina. And the reason for that is the Mendoza wine region. It's in the foothills of the Andes, so we've got high altitude. So this wine actually the grapes are grown at about 1,000 meters. So, you know, you're almost up, you know, Ben Nevis, and there's vines. So you just wouldn't expect that here. But of course, in the warmer climate of Argentina, that's what you can find. But what that does for the wine is you've got intense UV being high up. However, you've got cool nights, warm days, and that is the perfect combination to produce a wine with natural acidity. But still a lovely colour. So if you just have a little look at the colour, that's one of the first things you should do when you're tasting wines, is just appreciate the colour, then appreciate the nose, and then actually taste it. And I know many of you are laughing because you're thinking, I don't even look at it, I just throw it back. But yeah. So have a wee smell.
I was just telling Dave there, Barry, that I did it wrong again and I was straight in for the drink. I'll have a smell now. It looks amazing.
So just give this one a wee. I'm actually just going to pour. I think maybe I had actually sat that in the glass just a little bit too long and just lost that intense fruit that I quite like from this wine. But it's very smooth, and that's that whole, you know, day-night temperature thing where it's just nicely balanced. You can tell so much from a wine just by smelling it. Sometimes, especially these wines, which are very aromatic and lots of fruit, lots to think about and talk about on the nose. Sometimes I spend as much time smelling it as I do tasting it in my mouth. I bet nobody's using one of these.
No, we're all in our house, Barry. We don't need to drive.
It would be rude.
I have to say, I always enjoy a red wine with a steak, and I have both very, very rarely because I've not been drinking wine either. And when I smell that, I have to say I'm smelling a really good steak at the same time because I just think of the two of them together.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to save this bottle till I've got a couple of nice steaks.
Yeah, it's a real favourite, and we sell tons of it. I think it's arguably one of the best Malbecs that we sell. There are more premium Malbecs, there are more expensive Malbecs that we sell. But for me, this is pop and pour. It's just fantastic. You know, these chaps, Rookamallen, they have one of the, I think actually it was voted the best winery restaurant in Argentina. So a fantastic place to visit. I haven't been. However, last year, or maybe it was the year before, they sent over a full team, including the chefs, and we had a big wine dinner in Edinburgh, and they cooked us, I think, 5-6 course meal, and almost every course, with the exception of the dessert, was red meat. So just that's what they're all about, big, juicy steaks. It was absolutely fantastic and went so well with the wines. So a real incredible experience. So yeah, thumbs up for the Reds for those that have tasted it. It's good, perfect. And you know, these wines are not terribly expensive. I would say they're probably our sort of average bottle price, so you know, 12, 13 pounds, something like that per bottle, and that's probably the average for what we do retail wise here and there. Yeah. Does anyone get any questions about the wines or the cellars or what we do?
I have a question. What do you need to do to get on the lock-in list? Just tell me and don't tell the others.
Janet, you just need to keep an eye out for the next time the Chamber does a tasting and tour down at Corney and Barrow. In fact, we can start a waiting list now if you like. And Barry, as soon as you're open for tours, we'll be there.
We do host private tastings right up until lockdown. We were very busy with private tastings. You know, groups maybe up to 20 people. I suppose the optimum group is about 12, 14 people. Any more than that, and it gets a bit rowdy. But it is fantastic, a 2-hour experience, and we can't wait to resume those. We've got our wine club as well, which we run, which is pretty interesting. It gets very busy and lots of wine, getting drunk. But no, definitely this place, as soon as you can and as soon as we're able, you have to come visit. It's all about these cellars. That's why I had to be here to do it, because I just thought me sitting at home would just not be right. This place is really what it's all about. So I mean, we've got a head office in London, we've got an office in Edinburgh, an office in Hong Kong, Singapore, but this is the best. We had a big party here back in February, just before it all kicked off. In February we had a party. We were celebrating 50 years of working with an Italian winery, and it had to be here. It just had to be here and there. We had a big tasting in the cellars, and then we all went to Turnberry for an anniversary dinner. So it was a real amazing experience, especially for the customers and the Italians that were over visiting. But yeah, no, until you're in here, you just really don't. It's incredible. It's hard to explain. And just as a wine lover, to be surrounded by some of the finest wines in the world, some of which are valued, in excess of £20,000 per bottle, to be in amongst those wines is just incredible. So yeah, we don't shout about that too much, given where we are. Every time you bring people in here, the first thing they'll ask is about security, and I don't say much.
No.
Barry, I was going to ask a wee question, if it's all right. In terms of your business, Barry, I have to say I feel a wee bit embarrassed because I don't think I actually knew the business was there, and I certainly didn't know the history of it, so I really enjoyed that. It was fascinating. What kind of percentage of the business is done through the hospitality industry, and obviously COVID would have had an impact on that?
Yeah. So actually, I think really for me, before this all kicked off, I actually thought our on-trade side of things was much bigger than what it is. But it's not. I think actually it's about 50-50 nowadays. Okay. If you're maybe down south towards London, it might be actually there's higher on-trade down there. But no, it's about 50-50. And everybody in the team's got their own things to look after. I'm responsible for the shop and the sales for the shop and some private customers as well, and what goes on in here in the cellars. But we've got sales team all over the country that look after the on-trade. But of course, that's been a huge impact on us as things closing down. And in fact, even in the past week, it's been fantastic just to see some of these places reopen. We've got orders coming in, and I really hope it stays that way. And people are confident enough to go and eat and drink in their favourite restaurants again, because it would be a great shame to lose some of these places. So yeah, no, it's definitely the big impact. But the interesting thing is we've really stepped up the private sales side of things, it's not surprising that there's more people drinking more wine at home at the moment. Every day is a Friday.
Really?
Not at the chamber.
Not us.
Yeah, people are drinking more at home, so they've really helped us out. You know, for example, the shop here, so just a little thing that I look after, has almost doubled in sales in the past 4 months. So
Wow.
that does not make up for what we've missed out on. So, yeah.
No, brilliant. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Barry. That was superb. I mean, we've been lucky enough to be down.
Oh, somebody going to say
Sorry,
something?
I was just going to say, apart from a steak, do you know what else that Malbec's beautiful with, believe it or not, is a curry.
Right, okay.
Okay.
I drank that Malbec with a curry with somebody that recommended it, and it was really lovely.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to have wines with spicy foods, you should look for something that's fruity, I suppose. Something with a bit of fruit and a bit of sweetness almost will counteract the spice. Well, I say counteract, actually complement the spice. So that's a great thing to look for. And I think there's a decent bit of fruit in this. And probably you're just having a good time, good food and good wine. and that,
No, it was really lovely. And I can highly recommend that tour if anybody's not been on that tour, because I've done it with the chamber and it was absolutely fantastic. And I'd been on an amazing wine tour in Canada with my cousin, who's a big wine drinker. And he was originally born in Ayrshire, and he was due to come over in May. And my daughter was getting married, and that was one of the places I'd planned to take him. And obviously it's all cancelled, but maybe another time.
Yeah.
Hopefully, Helena, hopefully.
You don't have to have an appointment to pop in and get a wee tour. Of course, wine tasting, we need to know well in advance. But if it's just a case of you want to pop in, say hello, have a look at the shop, and have a wee tour, then we can do that anytime. Not at the moment, technically, but yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Barry. Do you not do nice special wine tastings through Christmas and the lead up to Christmas?
Well, I mean, what we do is the wine club tasting. What we do is at Christmas time we open it up to non-members for a small fee. So definitely the best thing to do is just follow us on social media, and you'll be kept up to date with everything you need to know.
And of course, there's mates rates for the chamber.
Yes.
Barry, sorry, can I just ask? I can't go over how nice that Anna white wine is.
I know.
Because it's not got that bitterness. It's almost like a dessert wine kind of sweetness that you get. But what is it that gives it that sweetness? Is it the location, or is it the grape variety? Like, what is it that?
Yeah. So, and all very good points. So, first of all, yeah, the grape variety Sauvignon Blanc is known for producing super fresh, lovely, tropical. It depends where it's from. You've probably heard of the wines Puy Fumé, Sancerre, which are French Sauvignon Blancs, but all about the place, Sancerre, Puy Fumé. Of course, this is from the New World, and so it's typical that it's got more fruit. So that is quite a typical style New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, which is very on trend. But it's important not to get confused, because you wouldn't call this a sweet wine. So this wine is not sweet. There is no sugar. Okay. So on the palate, it is a dry wine. However, it's got lovely tropical fruits, which we would consider to be a sweet fruit. So the aromas are lovely and sweet, and they remind you of sweet things, but it is a dry wine. So I think, to be honest, it just sounds like you've just found a wine which is perfectly balanced between, you know, as you say, it's not got that bitterness, but that's because it's all just perfectly balanced. It's well made. That's the difference between buying a supermarket Sauvignon Blanc, which might cost you £7-8, and spending a few quid more and getting something that's just perfect. That's what it's all about, honestly.
No, it's really nice. I'm not a big white wine fan, but I found that one really nice.
Yeah, good. I'm pleased.
Great. Good.
Perfect.
Okay, Barry, thanks so much. That was superb. Thank you. So, Brendan and Andy, are we ready? Do we have our whiskey glasses poised?
Yeah, we've got some whiskey glasses, and if you've got a wee jug of water as well and a wee teaspoon, that would help.
Maybe a wee bit about who you started, guys, and
Yeah.
we know you've just recently joined the chamber as one of our future chamber members, which is great. But maybe a wee bit more about your concept and what you're doing, because it's really interesting.
Yeah, of course. So, yeah, as you said, Yvonne, we are new to the chamber. So I've met some of you before, the majority of you haven't, but I'm Andy, and
I'm Brendan.
Brendan. Yeah, so our company is called Na Braithrean, and we started the company back in September, October last year. So the both of us met. We studied at university together, studied engineering. Both went straight into working in the aerospace industry and discovered pretty quick that we hated desk jobs and we loved whiskey. So we sort of started Na Braithrean as almost like a passion project to work out, to get out of our jobs basically. And so we started by going to tastings every other week. We were up in Glasgow at the Good Spirits Company. If anyone's been in there, Clydeside Distillery as well. We went to a lot of tastings in there, which I would highly recommend if you haven't been. It's well worth a visit. So we went up there and we kind of got to know more and more about the process of making whiskey. And something that really fascinated us about the process was that 70% of the flavour of whiskey and 100% of the colour comes from the cask it's matured in. So we found that really interesting, and then it really started to kick off that sort of spark when we purchased, it was called an Octave collection, produced by A.D. Rattray. So what that was one whiskey that had been finished, so sort of put into a different, smaller version of a cask for a period of time. And there was one, correct me if I'm wrong, Brendan, but we had a PX sherry cask, an Oloroso sherry cask. I think there was a rum cask as well.
Yeah, and there's some sort of red wine. I think it was a Shiraz or...
Yeah, Shiraz red wine as well. So it was basically, you got to try the whiskey as it was originally against all these different finishes and different kind of casks. So we just thought to ourselves, like, why is no one bringing a product like that to the market where you've got two separate whiskies which are the same but have got totally different influences. So that's the reason why we sort of started the business, and just to bring something a bit different and a bit experimental to the market.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, Andy and I with Na Braithrean, we're independent bottlers. So we buy casks that have already been matured, distilled by the distillery. And the cask that we buy, we call that the mother cask. And from that, we split it in half. And as Andy said, finish the halves separately. So put them into a smaller cask for a number of months just to finish off and round off the flavour. It could even be years. These two separate casks, we bottle them and we call them brothers. So that's where the name comes from, Na Braithrean, which is Gaelic for the brothers. So we have brother malts. So you can have them side by side, and it's kind of like they both come from the same mother cask, but they've got different surroundings, and that's what shaped them as individuals, as unique brothers, and give them their unique flavours, but yet have those similarities as brothers do. So we really encourage people to purchase both bottles and try them side by side, just to see how the cask can influence the flavour, smell, and even colour. So just thought we'd go around and see if anyone's been to a whiskey tasting before, and how did you find it? Just raise your hand maybe if you've been to one before, and a thumbs up if it was good, and maybe a thumbs down if it was all good.
Yeah.
I'm actually a member of the Scottish Malt Whisky Society.
Oh, good. So we. No, they've just opened that bar. Well, before lockdown, they had that bar in Glasgow, the Whisky Rooms that they opened up there, which is well worth a visit. We were lucky enough to go by before COVID, but I know it's a good club. But yeah, so we'll go on to tasting our first whiskey. So I don't know how many people have got the tasting packs, but if you've got one, the first one we're going to be trying is the Wee Brother. So that's the lighter of the two spirits. If you didn't get the tasting pack, feel free to grab any whiskey that's in your house and join along if you want. As long as it's not Famous Grouse. As long as it's not famous grouse, then we'll accept.
I think I've got a bottle of ales that's been in the back of the cupboard for a few years that I won in a raffle.
I daren't actually grab a whiskey because I've already exceeded my weekly government recommended daily intake. I do love whiskey.
No, it's great. We'll wait for Kelena's away to grab a whiskey, is she? But yeah, I'll tell a bit about this one first. So this is our first ever bottling. So when we started the business, we bought one single cask. It was a Colilla cask aged for 8 years in a refill bourbon hogshead. So what that is, hogshead's about 250 litres-ish. And it's been used to mature bourbon first. It's then been used to mature another whiskey, and then we've had it mature our whiskey, which is why it's called a refill. So I'll start by pouring ourselves a dram. So we bottled this at cask strength, so it's 60.2%. So it's yeah, it's quite strong.
That again.
No, you having that and the wine,
Alison.
Yeah, I don't think there's another one yet.
60.2%. So it's it's basically that. It's straight from the cask. Like we did it as non-chill filtered as well, which means so chill filtration is a process they've kind of got. So there's a thing people like to drink Scotch on the rocks, and when you put ice in it, the oils make the whiskey go cloudy. So what the bigger companies did was do this chill filtration process, which kind of takes the oils out of it, which stops people complaining when they put ice in their drink and it goes cloudy. But all that is just the natural oils that's in the whiskey from the cask. Well, there's no added colouring to it as well, which is quite a common thing in the whiskey industry. Darker spirits sell more, so I add colouring to it in the form of caramel. But yeah, so if you've got your glass there, the first thing you'll notice is, again, similar to the wine, you just sort of look at the colour. So it's quite pale in colour. And what that's from is because it's been put in a refill. So when that first goes into the cask, that's a clear liquid that it looks like gin or vodka. So 100% of that colour comes from the cask, but being a refill, it turns out quite pale. And then you notice just when you're nosing it, you'll get quite a lot of creaminess coming through. And sweetness. And again, what they like to do is so you hold it in your mouth, and you always go by age. So this is an 8-year-old, so we'll hold it in our mouth for 8 seconds, swirl it around, and then swallow it, and then come back to it.
Allows your taste buds and your mouth to wake up to the alcohol as well as 62%, 60%. Yeah,
exactly. So, and what I would do now as well is, especially if it's a wee bit too strong, Alison, I would just add, if you've got a teaspoon or a...
Is Dave okay there, Alison?
Still with us. So just add a teaspoon, or if you've got a dropper, perfect, just add a couple of drops of water. And what that does is softens the alcohol and lets the other notes come through. You know, when you're nosing it, especially at cask strength 60.2, it tends to you tend to get a lot of that alcohol in the nose. Just adding a drops of water kind of dulls that and lets the other flavours kind of open up.
That's better.
Mm.
Not that it wasn't nice, but it was. Whew.
I know it's strong.
I'm getting some funny faces from my taster as well.
That's the thing. If you try it and it makes you wince, then you need to add a couple of drops of water. A couple of drops of water.
I didn't wince.
Easy for you to drink.
My lips are on fire, but I didn't wince.
Yeah.
It's apparently a good wince though.
I was just going to add message to Lorna saying, tell them not to be shy.
Oh, that's nice.
It's been a busy garden day, so not quite ready.
What do you think? What do you think about it then? What sort of notes are you getting from it? Are you...
I like it, but I don't know why I like it.
Well,
I like it better with the water.
I find that between me and Andy, especially when it comes to whiskey, I feel he's got a more, well, I would say snobby, but he'd say complex palate, so he can sort of
like it just sounds smart.
you can maybe pick up more flavour. For me, I just get like a total sweet and creamy. But I think one thing that we sort of learned when tasting whiskey is all the notes that you get are just like how you taste it and what you associate with it. So some people can be like, oh, that tastes like marshmallow, and you're like, tastes like whiskey, what are you talking about? So I think there's no wrong answer. You can, hopefully you get the smoky.
Yeah.
Yeah, smoky. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, being
I think it's your go inside as well.
Yeah.
No, you definitely get that peatiness coming through. Being an Islay whiskey, it's that sort of signature kind of peat that you get as well on the nose, kind of smoky flavour.
Yep, agreed.
So where can we get your whiskey from at the moment? Where can you buy it, or?
So we've just released these 2 bottles, the one we're trying now and the one we're going to try next. We've got them for sale on our website. We're also going to be on Master of Malt pretty soon. I don't know if they've not put them up yet, though, have they, Brendan, on Master of Malt?
No, not yet.
But we'll be on there as well. And Craft, is it Craft 56?
Crap. Yes, 65 or 56, one of them.
So they're another online retailer that specialises only in Scottish spirits. So they've got a lot of Scottish gin, they've got a few Scottish whiskies, and they've also got Scottish rum, which is quite interesting as well. So yeah, we're on there at the moment. But yeah, so I think we're going to go on to the next one then.
Yeah, okay.
Ready, Alison?
I would save a wee bit. If you got a wee bit left of the first one, that's our wee brother. Just hold on to that so we can go back to it and sort of compare and contrast. So if you just get your big brother here, I'm only like a little ball. That's all I'm.
Yeah, too late. Sorry.
He's drank all his. I'll keep a bit of mine.
Oh, is it gone? I'm sure it's still lingering in your mouth, Dave.
Just.
We're there tomorrow still. So this one is our big brother, and you can see right away, even you aren't not drinking it, you can see the colour difference. Put them side by side. Just so much darker.
Oh, sweeter.
So yeah, much sweeter. You can get it right away. So that comes from the finishing process. So what we've done with this one, this is a 9-year-old. So it's the same whiskey that was here, but it's put into a PX Pedro Jimenez sherry cask, and it's a quarter cask. So it's quite a small cask in comparison to the 250 litre one. So that means the whiskey, there's more contact surface with the wood, so you get that flavour and colour much quicker, and it affects the flavour more. So again, if you just give it a smell, like you said, Alison, right away you get a sweetness that wasn't quite as prominent there at all, and you get almost a lot of people say like a dark dried fruits, almost like a Christmassy smell.
Your favourite, Alison?
Instead of brandy. Sorry?
Your favourite?
I do like a Christmas pudding, it has to be said.
And again, if we just give it a wee sip and hold it in your mouth for maybe 9 seconds, now since it's a 9-year-old, give it the respect it's due. You can taste there's definitely a Christmassy vibe going through into the taste as well. Peppery, oaky, but you still have that smokiness right at the end as well. Can you get the similarities between them? Can you taste it? Definitely a sweetness, like you said.
I think for me as well, you almost get like the base spirit is still there. So I still get that creaminess, especially on the nose. But I think the PX just adds that extra extra something as well, and being a smaller cask, it's almost like accelerated the aging process, so it tastes a lot older than a 9-year-old. If you've ever tasted an older whiskey.
I like that.
Again, if you add some water as well, you're gonna, like as Andy said, open up and you can taste some of the flavour, like kind of almost get past that alcohol taste. The reason we sort of keep it with cask strength as well is so that the drinker can decide themselves how much water to add. You can't really take water back out, but you can always add some more. But yeah, it's definitely a lot sweeter. And it's also 58%, so low in alcohol compared to the wee brother.
I'll be able to drive after this one. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
That's I don't condone that at all, but if you think you
It's like a whiskey shandy in comparison to the other one.
I don't know if you should drive after smelling the other one.
It's a good job you're not working at the minute.
What do you think, Lorna? Have you can you taste the difference? What do you like better? Are they both just too much, or is there sweetness?
Oh, they're both too much for me. I like that one. That's lovely. The second
Is that the big brother?
Yeah.
I like that. I definitely like that.
It's more sophisticated.
Oh, that's why we like it.
I think that
only
sounds,
touched my lips.
my dad is 91 and he still has a wee nip of whiskey every night before he goes to bed. So that definitely sounds like a birthday purchase coming up soon. So
fantastic.
Like you, my mum enjoys a wee whiskey. So yeah, definitely.
I mean, to have the high enough alcohol content to like destroy COVID as well. They're both meeting the.
All right.
So we don't need a vaccine then. We're sorted.
Hand sanitizer we make start supplying bottles.
Excellent.
Oh, the second one.
But that's that we would just keep in Scotland.
See, now I'm going back to the first one.
All right.
What do you think?
To compare.
I mean,
Yeah,
for
I like
me,
the second one.
second one. I think as well there'll be one if people that don't really fancy whiskey, if you keep trying, one day there'll be one whiskey you'll try and it'll just click and you'll go, wow, I can taste what they're talking about and I actually like it. It doesn't just burn my throat.
No, it's not burning my throat. Lips, yes. Throat, fine.
I don't know.
Yeah, I prefer the first one, but I don't know if that's just because I like a stronger
I
drink.
prefer this one.
I definitely prefer the white. It's delicious. So thank you, Barry. That's really, really nice.
I'm just not a whiskey drinker. That's why I brought in the guest whiskey drinker. So they've gone down a cheat and definitely a future purchase for Christmases and birthdays.
Definitely, yeah.
Good.
Anne, are you enjoying a wee drink there? Anne?
Yeah, I've got a lavender and apple gin and tonic.
Really nice.
Good.
Sadly, Helena doesn't live in Ayrshire, but we will arrange for samples of the whiskey to come to you, Helena, because I know you like the whiskey.
I should live in Ayrshire because I'm Mrs. Ayrshire. I managed to pour myself whiskey though, just so I could join in.
Good.
So I know we've run over time, but we want to get around for those who haven't had an opportunity just to see who you are and what your business is, because as I said at the beginning, all good networking happens either on the golf course or at the bar. And if you've had, I thought, Helena, you missed the introduction at the beginning. We were saying if we had a chamber pub, what should it be called? So we'll start off. Obviously, our presenters have had a chance to speak. So, Anne, you're first in my screen of chamber members.
Okay, so I'm Anne Cromack. I've got a little business called iCat Photography. I photograph absolutely anything apart from weddings. People, products, places, architecture, show houses, all that stuff. I've got a lighting rig which I take out with me, so I do travel to various locations. I really enjoy these chamber chats. They're really good fun. I think What about chamber chalice?
Chamber chalice. Oh, all right.
Chamber chalice.
That's a good one. So next on my screen is Lorna.
Hi, this is different from the normal chats I come into. It's normally a coffee or an afternoon tea. So I'm an office manager at Electricians in Maybole, and I've joined in most weeks, I think every week since.
You have definitely become one of our serial networkers.
I've
Zoom
made a lot of
Lorna.
contacts, and I must say this is one of the nicer ones that's not work related. So I will definitely be in contact with both companies tonight, or all companies tonight. So yeah. Great.
That's great. Thanks
Very
for
much.
coming. Great, Lorna. Thank you. Helena.
Hi, so I'm Helena Morrow. I've worked in Ayrshire now for over 20 years, but I do live in Glasgow. I work for Reach Scotland, which is the largest UK publisher in the the largest publisher in the UK. We publish the Ayrshire Post, the Irvine Herald and the Kilmarnock Standard down that neck of the woods. But we've also published Daily Record, Sunday Mail, Business Insider, OK Magazine, Daily Express, Daily Star, etc., all in Scotland. So I look after the Scottish division. I'm very fond of Ayrshire, as you might tell. And out of all the companies online in the UK, we're the 5th largest company online. And we're only 5th after Google, Microsoft, Facebook, and Amazon. So we're a huge audience. We've got in your area Ayrshire with over 1 million users every month, and Ayrshire Live as well. So that's me. If anybody needs any help with anything or marketing,
and a pub name, Helena? A pub name for the chamber?
The Chamber Vaults.
Chamber
Vaults.
Vaults. All right. Okay.
Vault. V-A-U-L-T.
T vaults. Yep.
No, vault.
I vault.
Yes. Yes.
There is, I think, a castle vault in Saltcoats. Castle Vaults, I think there is a pub in Saltcoats.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah. Not that I know it, I just one of our directors owns it, so that's the reason.
Your secret's out now, Val.
Secret's out now. Lorna, Bar Cometh. Oh, Bar Cometh, that's good. Liking that. Craig. Oh, would any of our presenters want to pitch in my bar name? Janet.
I've got one.
Well, I was, because I'm in the middle of organising a Victorian garden party, and I was thinking of things like quartz and quart pot, I thought, what about chamber pot?
Oh, no. We had a past president used to call the teamies chamber pots.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
I know. Barry, what about you? Any ideas?
Yeah. So I was thinking this one's for you, Val. So rather than the Queen Vic, we'd call it the Queen Val.
Oh. Thank you. Brendan, what about you?
But I was thinking something a wee bit more whiskey related, the chamber still.
Oh, that's quite good as well. Andy, have you got an idea?
I was thinking again Scottish and Gaelic, Slanjava, which is cheers in Scottish.
Yeah, I like that as well. That's good. And you gave us chamber chalice. So, Craig, I think you're last on my screen.
Yes, sure, thanks, Val. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Craig Johnston from Giglets Education. So, we run a EdTech business. Basically, provide software as a service into schools, local authorities, government, mostly focused on literacy and numeracy. So, that's what kind of keeps us busy. We're based in John Finney Street in Kilmarnock, where we've got a wee office in there. We've got, I think, 8 people based in there. Well, they're not based in there just now, clearly, but they would normally be so. So that's a bit about us. And so Val has kindly asked me just to, I think, say a wee vote of thanks to everybody. But before I do that, I'm going to get in with my my pub name. So Val, mine's also about you, I'm afraid. And I thought about the Valerie Arms.
Valerie Arms, all right, okay.
Which is maybe a full Sunday name, which was maybe unexpected. But,
yeah.
So unfortunately, guys, I did look like I had a beer, but I have to confess and say it was a non-alcoholic beer. So I'm really sorry about that. I'm not having alcohol at this moment in time for a reason that doesn't matter. But so I'm disappointed I missed out on it because I love cocktails, definitely love wine, and I really love whiskey. So I'm sorry I missed out on it, but that was great, guys. Thank you very much. Firstly, I think thanks Yvonne for pulling it all together. Not easy to do these things during lockdown, so thanks for your time in doing that. Really good, and I love it. I assume the background was you're doing as well, Yvonne, for you and Val, which is really good. So well done and thank you. Janet, really nice to see you. It's been a while since I saw you. I think the last time I experienced your cocktails was probably back in the days of 1-2 Real Spark. Is she still there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay.
She's on mute. I am on mute because
no, that's right.
Neil's actually cooking the tea, so there's a lot of.
Okay, no, that's fine. Well, thank you very much for that. I enjoyed that. So you've given us some good ideas for cocktails. Nice and Barry, as I say, I really embarrassingly didn't know anything about your business at all, so that was really interesting, and I will definitely need to get myself down to your shop to try out some of that Argentinian wine. That sounds fantastic. So thank you for that, and the wine tasting definitely sounds like something to try as well. And lastly, guys, from the whiskey. So I'm going to try and say it now. Now I should know this because we sell a lot into the Gaelic world. Is it Na Braithrean? Is that how you say it?
Close.
Close. Tell me how you say it, Andy.
Na Braithrean. So
Na Braithrean.
That's the one, yeah.
Na Braithrean, nice one. Okay, fantastic. So yeah, it was really great to hear that, guys. And obviously, Val was telling me as well, you guys are also in the Future Chamber. So maybe see you in a couple of weeks at an event that's set up there. So yeah, great night. I'm just sorry I didn't get to enjoy a drink with you all, but thank you all very much. And Val, thanks for asking me to say a few words at the end.
You're very welcome. And we should say as well, Helena omitted to add that she's one of our partners for business, and it's the Partners for Business that actually support the Future Chamber programme, and as you said, Brendan and Andy are part of that programme, whereby we invite young business people under the age of 35 to join the Chamber on a special programme that's tailored to them to give them support and help their business grow. So obviously we're delighted you came along and took part tonight and help spread the word, which is good. And as I say, certainly I'll be going onto your website and getting a wee order in for a birthday bottle for my dad. And thanks again to Barry, Corney and Barrow, absolute stars, and Janet. So yeah, thank you. I'm still got a half glass of wine here that I'm going to finish. So
I thought you were going to say bottle, Val.
No, I've put the lids back on. No, definitely not. And I'll find a wee stopper for the red wine as well.
Yeah.
Probably for the weekend. My son-in-law absolutely loves a Melbeck, so I'll maybe save it and let him enjoy it at the weekends. I say I'm not saying that I've given up alcohol, because I haven't, but gin and tonic, you can get more of them for Weight Watchers points than a glass of wine.
Okay, so thank you. Thanks all of you for attending, and Janet, Barry, Brendan and Andy, thanks for your time earlier on the lead up and the planning. It's really appreciated. So hopefully this is something we can maybe move forward and do again in the future.
Yeah.
And can I actually, we had more for our presenters than anything else. We had 10 people had registered for this tonight, some of whom bought the wine, so that's happy days for you, Barry, but who haven't come along tonight and actually listened to a news article this morning. As we know, hotels and restaurants are on restricted numbers of the people that can take, and it was 2 different restaurateurs talking about the number of bookings that they've taken and the people haven't turned up. So, you know, sadly, you know, for us it's fine, they haven't turned up, they've bought wine, or, you know, they bought whiskey. I'm not sure who got what, but you know, you've still had the purchase. We haven't lost out on anything, but, you know, to support businesses and book and then not turn up and stop other people from going. I have to say I'm slightly disappointed, and the no-shows might actually get a wee cheeky email from the chief exec in the morning to find out what happened to them. So I'm sorry we didn't have the audience that we hoped we'd had, but they've enjoyed your drink, so it's better than nothing, I suppose. So yeah, so thanks very much.
Thanks, everyone. Is it officially last orders then?
Yeah, last orders. Ring your bell, Yvonne, ring your bell.
I need to drive home now because I live in Glasgow, so I want to get home and enjoy one of these bottles of wines to myself.
Right, Barry, quite now.
Thank you. Thanks, Barry.
Good night, everybody.
Bye,
Okay,
bye, Helena.
thank
Good
you,
to
guys.
see you again.
Thank you. Bye.
Safe journey, everyone.
I'm glad I let you know I was going to be late and I didn't get a cheeky email.